Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Come on in, take a seat, Panther fans, with the longest running Panthers podcast out there. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast, and it's Tuesday night where we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. My name's Tony Dunn. They call me the Professor, and I'm here with my wheelman, Cody Lashney. What is up, my man?
Tony Dunn, we're rocking like old times, man. Just me and you, man. CK and Greg have some stuff they're getting done tonight, but we're going to hold it down like we always do. The Panthers have a brand new defensive coordinator, and Panther fans seem to be pumped about Ejiro Evero. We're already
tomato.
Yeah, we're already determining how to say his last name. But dude, Deuce Staley is the new coach on the Carolina Panthers. Steve Wilks is going to be the new defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers. Tony, you already know there's so much to talk about. So much to get into, but we're going to do it with the best damn Panther fans and all the YouTube, and you already know them and love them. Our man Joey, the Blind Panther, 910 Panther fan, Anthony Piccarello, Joshua Hall, Just Don't Care, Ken Folk NC, Lawrence Trevette, Lynn Leonhardt, Michael Davis, Pack MD, Pad1 Panther, Raleigh Lee, Rock Rhyme, Smells Like Blue, The Cardiac Cat 13, Tim Estes, Underground West, Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
I love seeing all those little green name tags in our chat. I'm pretty sure they're green in the YouTube chat. Those are C3 super fans. Those people are diehards. They rock with the C3 Panthers podcast. We thank you for your support. That's a small donation that they give the podcast, $1.99 a month, and get some of those cool tags, the loyalty badges, and cool emojis. But you know how you can support the show? You can smash the thumbs up button. You can subscribe to the longest running Panthers podcast, finishing up our 10th season as a podcast. Haven't missed a week since 2013 when I started this show way back when. Good Lord, it's been a fun ride. We love having you here with us, and we are so close to 5,000 subscribers, folks. We're 100 subs away. 4,900 we hit today. And our small, humble podcast, but our wonderfully brilliant community continues to deliver. So smash the thumbs up button. Be a part of the show. Call into the show at 252-228-5098. We want to hear your thoughts on our new defensive coordinator. Will the Carolina Panthers find an offensive coordinator? We heard about Jim Bob Cooter about a week ago.
Favorite
boy,
name.
I know best. Who doesn't love Cooter? All of a sudden, this is that all silent, though. All quiet on the offensive coordinator front. Some people are even dropping names like a Jim Nagy potentially after this Super Bowl. So we want to know what you guys want to talk about. Jump in that chat and tell us, because this is a show by fans for fans. Rock with us. Man, we're even going to be talking about Panther fans bantering back and forth with Shaq Thompson and other players. Matt Rule, egos, they don't go away. So it's going to be a fun show. Go ahead and get your calls in, folks, because we're going to start sprinkling the calls in more throughout the show tonight and hopefully going forward and not just, trying to, I guess, make it more integrated into the show. So go ahead and call in 252-228-5098. Cody, let's go ahead and jump in tonight's show. And the big news is the Panthers are starting to build their staff. And one of the things that Frank Reich was, there's a story. Actually, let me just bypass to this. Is Joe Person put out a story on The Athletic, and it's kind of like a detailed moment by moment, day by day account of the coaching hire. But really like how they were doing the interviews, who was doing when, who was doing what. There was a lot of rumors. There was a lot of conjecture behind the scenes. But one of the things that Frank Reich brought to the table was not only experience and an offensive mind, but connections in the NFL that he had been cultivating since he had even been fired from Indianapolis. Lists of names that he had been in contact with, and trying to say, like, it's important for him to put together a top staff. And this was really important, or resonated with David Tepper, who spoke a lot about it and why they selected him. And Frank Reich mentions, like, we've got to get a great staff together. Frank Reich has had a history of putting together a talented staff. I mean, if you look at it, they're all in the freaking Super Bowl right now.
Yeah.
And this name right here, Ejiro Evero,
Evero.
This
Chat,
name,
how do you say it?
yeah, this name is the hottest name on the block right now. And I got to just say, I don't know how many people in the world have been following defensive coordinators, but this name, I haven't seen anybody say anything bad about this guy. Not a single person's like, I wish we would have gotten Fangio. In fact, he is a Fangio. He's a young Fangio disciple.
Listen, out of all the defensive coaches that were out on the market, Ejiro Evero, his name was number one amongst them all. In fact, he was even getting head coaching interviews. We had interviewed him for the head coach. There was a bunch of different teams that wanted this guy to potentially be a head coach. He's by far the most coveted defensive coach that was out there on the market. And listen, I know we're going to talk about Steve Wilks a little bit later, but now you're finally seeing the benefit. Well, I say finally, but I should say already, you're seeing the benefit of the type of people that Frank Reich can bring into the organization, and that his name and his resume and the things that he has done in the NFL, it means a lot. And people feel like the Panthers are building something really, really nice. And Ejiro Evero was one of them. So a few points about Ejiro here. The first year as a defensive coordinator, he coached the Denver defense that ranked top 10 in total defense, despite injuries that were up and down the roster. And he was
despite trading away Bradley Chubb, one of the, a coveted player. And despite this, or in spite of an offense that didn't put any points up, dude. His defense was on the field the whole fucking season. How many excuses were made for Carolina defenses over the last 2-3 years about, like, oh, imagine how good this was if the offense could actually move the ball and score. The Broncos averaged like 10 points a game.
Yeah, their offense was very, very bad. I mean, there's a reason why this dude was the number one amongst most defensive candidates. And it really has a lot of Panther fans, myself included, fucking pumped for Jeremy Chin and J.C. Horn, maybe even a guy like Dante Jackson, because of his pedigree and what he's been able to do with that defense for the Denver Broncos. I wanted to play this clip. This was when he was still with the Broncos, and I wanted to play it, and then I want to talk about what this means for the future of the Panthers defense.
3-4 in our base defense. We'll play a variety of sub packages. There'll be a lot of carryover from what these guys did last year. But at the end of the day, Coach Allen was just talking about the evaluation. You got to start with the evaluation of your players. You got to see who's in your roster. You got to see what they do well. And then the scheme has got to fit your players, and you can't go the other way around with that.
All right, dude. Scheme has to fit your players. But he also mentioned, Tony, something that we have been mentioning for a long time, and that a lot of fans have been mentioning for a long time, and that's a 3-4 defense. Do you think this is finally the moment in time where the Panthers finally make that leap to the 3-4 like has been talked about for a long time?
I have no idea. And when I say I have no, I mean, like, it sounds awesome. It sounds awesome if you have the right personnel, everyone tells us, or whatever it is, but all I know is this is what I know about a 3-4 defense. Historically, it has fucking driven the Panthers offense nuts.
Yes.
Every time the Panthers have played a 3-4 defense, I felt like we just got mollywomped.
And tell me if I'm wrong
when
here.
we play the 3-4 defense, I feel like everybody mollywomps us.
Yeah, but
so
we never even committed to it right with the correct personnel. I feel like we kind of half-assed the 3-4 just because Ron Rivera felt they needed to do something different to save his job.
Tepper potentially influenced him a little heavily.
But I feel like Evero, however you say his name,
just go with it.
He is more of a specialist in this type of regard. And I feel like if the Panthers know that they're going to be a 3-4, they can start building through the draft in this direction. And I think that can kind of mold the way that we do things going forward. But Tony, something else I've noticed about 3-4s, I don't know if you agree or not. I find that the most ferocious pass rushing defenses normally always come from a 3-4 rather than a 4-3. I feel like it's harder to find. How about this? It's harder to find 4-3 defensive ends than it is to find 3-4 outside linebackers.
Look, I think this is a great comment in the chat. The very next one, 3-4 is easy to run on. 3-4 assumes every team is passing. That's how you crack a 3-4 defense. It feels like is to just run at it. I don't know. Cody, I almost wonder this is when I look at these defenses, and again, I'll tell you this is I'm an expert football fan, not a football expert. So I'm not great at telling you exactly what the X's and O's are and the right. I use the eye test. It works pretty well. Sometimes I've watched a lot of football. I don't know if the distinction between 3-4 and 4-3 is as different as it used to be in the past. And what I mean by that is when you got 4 guys with their hand in the dirt versus 4 guys on the line of scrimmage, but 2 of them are standing up. Is that really different? You know what I'm saying? If you're putting 4 dudes on the line of scrimmage, whether they are rushing like Hassan Reddick was, and we'll talk about him later in the show, these stand-up rushers, if they're rushing the passer, is it really a 3-4? You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I know it technically is because you're putting the nose and the things like this. I do think is that 3-4s are suited for the modern day defensive end. And is that the league, look at Brian Burns. Brian Burns is a little light in the ass if you think about like a type of defensive end, and he's bigger than a Reddick and all these other guys. Like you can't even call some of these guys defensive ends, but that's how you use them.
Well, and when he was coming out in the draft, everybody thought that he was best suited as a 3-4 outside linebacker. In order to fit as a 4-3 defensive end, he's put on a lot of weight. He's put on some muscle, and he's tried to have, be that hand in the dirt type of guy. But Tony, that's why I tell you that those players now are more rare to me. Because if you imagine an outside linebacker, think of Hassan Reddick. You could be 6'2", 230 pounds, and be a dynamic 15 a sack a year type of outside linebacker. Whereas if you're a defensive end, you're probably around 6'5", 6'6", and you're probably upwards of 265. And I think finding those.
Oh, that's light, bro. That's still light.
Right, even more. But that's my point.
285.
The bigger, more athletic guys are just flat out harder to come by. And I also feel like you're right. And people have mentioned this in the chat. A 3-4 defense, it's not the best at stopping the run. That's kind of been one of the drawbacks of that 3-4 defense. It doesn't have to be bad.
Probably have to have, yeah.
Having bigger men up front is, as a rule of thumb, better for stopping the run.
Sure. I think the other thing is this is when I think of the 3-4, the historic 3-4 defense, not the new one, maybe, is and why it didn't work, right? Is I think of people like Quentin Coples. Quentin Coples is a North Carolina guy. He's from Kinston, North Carolina, went to Chapel Hill, was a guy that old school Panther fans, not old, but if you going back to 2013, 2014, I forget when he came out, people were hype about him. He went to the Jets in the first round, and he was drafted as that athletic defensive end who could rush the passer and drop back into coverage. I think that those guys are all liabilities at the end of the day in coverage, right? So is that like if you run that, you just have to understand that their whole job is to rush the passer. Like they said this is I saw Hassan Reddick's defensive coordinator say this earlier in the season. He had 17 sacks this year, and he said he probably would have had 25 if I hadn't have dropped him back into coverage so much. Right. And it's hard for me to say is like, how do you use these guys? I just don't want Brian Burns on running backs. I don't want Brian Burns on wide receivers. And that's what you do. That's how you attack those things. So how do you, and I'm hoping, and I trust these guys know how to mix it up in the right way. I think you have to have, again, I think he's right here, is that you don't, and this is the archaic version of football, is where your scheme, you bring in players to fit your scheme. Or maybe not that, is maybe I'm not doing that, but you go like, this is how we do it. This is what we're doing. Instead, the whole part of the NFL is everybody is good. I love the saying good on good, right? Is everybody is good. And Frank Reich said that in his press conference. It's good on good. We got to get the most out of our guys. We have to make it about our players and what they do great. So I respect his position, and I trust his wisdom on this. But I just have never seen. First, we've just never had success with it. But we've only tried it twice in our history, or 3 times. Totally. One, I think we were like a 3-4, like in the early in our tenure. Then you had that Ron Rivera year where it was just like, we don't know. We can't stop the run for shit.
It felt rushed. It felt forced. It felt like they didn't really even fully
commit to it. They changed mid-season, I think, or something.
Well, no, but they did it before the season. But it felt like the players that we had drafted, it's like we didn't really even commit to a full 3-4 defense. Like we kind of just took the 4-3 players that we had and then tried to fit a square peg in a round hole. We had older players. You don't know how good he was and how familiar the staff was at teaching it. It was teaching it on the fly to a certain degree. And the only other reason, the time I've seen it, is that 3-3-5. I know that's not a 3-4, but it's like the college. And then you're just like, oh God, I just haven't seen us had success when you only put 3 men on the front line. Right. But this guy, you're coming from a team though, who has a history of fucking dominating with that shit. I mean, guess who? Isn't that what the Broncos ran against us in the Super Bowl where they ate our lunch? They've always been a 3-4 team.
I know.
And that's what I'm saying, right? Listen, I'm excited for an aggressive Panthers defense. I want us to be kicking quarterbacks' ass up and down the field. And I feel like an aggressive type of defense is what the Panthers need. We need to play
what they need is good players.
Yeah, but
that's what they fucking need is good. No, we don't.
We have the player. Yeah, we do. We have the players to play man coverage, Tony Dunn. I take J.C. Horn over Patrick Surtain any day of the week. And we have the players that are built for man coverage. And in fact, this was some of the drawbacks from Steve Wilks. People felt like Steve Wilks played that off-man coverage too much in the vein of a Ron Rivera, and that it was causing too much of a cushion for opposing teams to just dink and dunk their way to a first down and pick when they want to take shots.
I just don't know if we got the defensive front.
Well, we're going to have to build this way. This is going to be a process. We're just now getting in our new head coach. We're just now getting in our new defensive coordinator. We are starting to move in the right direction. Yeah. But we need to continue to draft well. And Fitterer in my opinion, has never been more important to this organization than right now. Now we're about to really see if Scott Fitterer is who we think he is as a general manager, and if he can continue to build this team with the 3-4 defense in mind. Tony, I wanted to turn to our old friend Jordan Rodriguez, who went on the Kyle Bailey show, to give her thoughts on Ejiro Evero.
I know Ejiro well, obviously covered him extensively here in Los Angeles and then kept up with him when he was in Denver. First and foremost, I mean, my goodness, this is an absolutely home run hire for the Carolina Panthers. And what I mean by that is not just Ejiro as a person, as a coach. He's fantastic with players, fantastic with strategy, but it's a really modern hire too. This is the Carolina Panthers looking at the way that defenses are moving and changing and evolving in the NFL and what the dominant strains are going to be here moving forward. And Ejiro Evero is on the front lines of that. So the first thing I thought of when I see, how hotly the Panthers were pursuing Ejiro for quite a while, actually, I thought to myself, wow, this is a team that's modernizing fast in terms of what it wants to do with its scheme and philosophy. And Ejiro, like I said, he's on the front wave of that. Just the way that he can take all of the different systems that he's worked in, but also meld it into this sort of next evolution forward of what this Fangio system is. You saw it happen. He helped install it with Brandon Staley in LA in 2020, and that kind of took over the league by storm. And now he continues to even move it forward, and it's very player first. It's very empowering to the players to play in a system like that. So I'm going to tell you, Kyle, I'm kind of excited to see what this thing looks like for Carolina.
Yeah, this is exciting to hear about. She's not the only one exciting. I think the thing I go back to is his first year as a defensive coordinator. Is that how much this Broncos team defensive success came in the midst of dysfunction on offense. And that is very hard to sustain. I don't care what the talent level you have. You saw him dealing with injuries, trade away, but the team produced, and they're in a league. They're in a division. The only times here, if you look at this is wild. Actually, I'm going to share this just because I pulled this up the other day because I was just learning about him, and I've got to learn more about the Broncos. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's who we should be kind of studying in a way. Yeah. Look at these. Now, I know you guys are going to look at or at least I just remember the Broncos just sucking on offense, right? I do remember that. But look at this. 17 Seahawks, 9 Texans, 10 49ers. They allowed 32 against the Raiders. Now they played some bad teams in the beginning. The Jets, but they hold the Chargers to 19 in October. They held the Jaguars to 17.
What was the score when we played them?
When we played them, 23-10.
And see, even then, this actually mentioned earlier, Tony, this defense was having to kick in overtime to make up for that putrid Denver offense and join.
They gave up over 30 points, only won this 51, but I don't think they had anybody play. I don't know what that was. Remember that game where the Rams put up? It was that. That was all. I think that was all the Rams defense. Wasn't that Baker Mayfield involved in the 51-point game, the 50 burger on Christmas Day? I think was. But look, you're talking about the only time they gave up over 30 points was to the Chiefs, and they're in the Super Bowl. If you exclude that, so to me that says a lot. And one of the things that I continue to go back with this hire is that while he is a young and exciting defensive coach, he has 15 years of NFL coaching experience. The other thing that we also brought in right now, one of the hires we don't know in his official capacity of what he is going to be with the Carolina Panthers, but we brought in Deuce Staley. Deuce Staley was, I think parted ways in a good way with Detroit. The word that I've heard is that his mother is ill, and he's from South Carolina, I believe, or somewhere in the Carolinas. and this would have been a good fit coming back home. I think there might be some correlation with him and Frank Reich at their time in Philadelphia. So like there's some potential relationship going back into the well there. But if you look at even just the Staley, the Evero, Campen, Tabor, this is the one thing what I found interesting. The problem facing a guy like a Matt Rule coming from the college ranks is not just a transition from college to the pros and how things are done, but your relationships are all built through the college system. So the guys you can call up, the guys you could call in a pinch and ask for advice, the guys that you ask to bring in your staff or whatever, they're all college dudes. Guess what Frank Reich is not? He is a pro dude through and through and through, and this staff already is showing you this. It's got the pro pedigree. And I don't know if this isn't just us putting a staff together that's good, or if this is a symbol that Frank Reich has just had a long history in the NFL, and he can go to the well. His name, his contacts carry a bravado, or a not bravado. That's not the right word. They command a respect that the college name, and this is like look at this, is that Sean Payton is taking over the Broncos. Supposedly the Broncos wanted to retain Evero, and he said, man, I just really would like a fresh start. And then he comes to Carolina.
Yeah, man.
Supposedly he chose Carolina over the Vikings. He chose Carolina over the Broncos, clearly.
Vikings fans were mad, too.
This has to be somewhat of Frank Reich's, I don't know, the attractiveness of him.
And can I be a little bit controversial right now?
Please.
I know we're going to talk about Steve Wilks, and I would have pulled for Steve Wilks, but this is why Frank Reich was the better hire of the two.
I agree.
Between Frank Reich and Steve Wilks. And we're going to talk about Steve. He's gone on to greener pastures, and he kind of failed up, since he failed to make the playoffs. Now he's gone on to a very good opportunity for him. But it's what you mentioned, Tony. Frank Reich has the type of pedigree where people can already see what he's building over here. They see how good our offensive line was. They see how we have. Listen, regardless of what you and I think of the Panthers defense as Panther fans, the thought around the NFL is that the Panthers have a lot of really good young defensive players to build around, and that they're a few pieces away from being a top defense in the NFL. We're not used to it, but the Panthers right now are one of the premier destinations because of Frank Reich and because of what we're doing here in Carolina.
Love it. Love it. The number's 252-228-5098. That's 252-228-5098. We want to hear your thoughts on the early phases of the Carolina Panthers assembling their staff. The Super Bowl's coming up. Cody, why don't we go ahead and jump into a couple of catcalls?
Let's do it.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
C3, what's up? Nominal Panther fan here. Great hire with Evero. I mean, I'm being optimistic about it because he had a lot of head coaching opportunities and interviews, so hopefully he sticks around for more than 1 year. But it gives us a window where we can operate and hopefully achieve greatness in the South. One other side note I will say, I think if Frank Reich's going to be calling the plays, then, I mean, wouldn't the quarterback's coach be
Oh, it cut out. Am I the only one not hearing him? Are y'all not hearing him anymore? But Tony stepped away from the computer for a second. So, whatever. It's just your boy talking. Shout out to the caller. Appreciate you, man. Listen, I've said and been very vocal before. I would love to finally have a coach who is calling plays, a head coach who calls plays. And I think that's important. And that was one of the bigger reasons why we even hired Frank Reich in the capacity that we did. Hey, Tony, the call shit out halfway through.
Oh,
Hey,
sorry.
I can't
Sorry.
hear anything.
All right, I'm back. No, because I muted myself. That's why.
But don't.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Well, his call, it went on for, it says 3 minutes, but it turned out it was only 45 seconds. Here, let's go to Chuck.
Hey guys, Chuck from Elizabeth City, aka Carolina Sports Guy.
Sure.
With everything going on like it is, and I know we're probably waiting on the Super Bowl to finish up so we can name our offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson. But anyway, I guess one of the questions I've got now that we've got a head coach and the defensive coordinator and the staff's taking place, it really opens up the one thing that we definitely need. We know we got pieces on defense and got a nice young offensive line. We need to build depth and got some nice pieces, receiver, tight end here and there. You know, the running game don't look bad. The quarterback's the big question. Now, if we sell the farm, try to move up in this draft to get, I say CJ Stroud.
Oh, why'd you do this to us,
me,
Chuck?
he's the one to get, and not Bryce Young.
You know
CJ
what?
Stroud. And I don't want Levis
and
Richardson. I know if we stick at 9, but I think Stroud would be the one home run pick. If we did trade up, we got to give up some assets. And that's my question. I'm kind of torn because if we do that, if we go with our new defensive coordinator and he does a 3-4, we've got some nice pieces in place like Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin, J.C. Horn, Frankie Luvu. But we've got in Derek Brown, but we got a couple people that YGM that might not fill that void, might not be able to play that role. So my question is, if we give up a lot to get this quarterback, are we going to have enough ammunition left to replace or rebuild what we need to on defense? Because if we keep these extra picks, we might be able to hit some defensive gems to, carry on what this defensive coordinator we got from Denver, what he might be able to do. But then again, that puts you at risk of not really having that great quarterback. So that's just the thing I want to pose. What do you think we guys do? Do we give up a lot to get Stroud, or do we stay put and see what happens and try to roll with Corral or maybe a Derek Carr or some other option and keep these draft picks and try to get some defensive players, maybe another receiver? It's just something I'm kicking around because we could go any way. We don't really know what our brass or people in the office plan on doing yet. And that's what makes this time of year interesting. So I can't wait for your comments, guys.
This drives me nuts.
Oh, dude, you better get used to it, brother. This conversation is not going away until April.
Not the trade up problem. It's not that drives me nuts. What drives me nuts is that we're potentially in a position where people are even considering trading up and doing all of this.
Yeah.
And in the background is a concern that our defense doesn't have enough depth. When all we've tried to do for the last 2.5 years, 3 years is try to fix the defense. How is it not? All right, that's it. That's all I guess. It's like, is that like if there was a time that you should be able to go out there and have these defensive players coming in and stepping into their own, this would be a great opportunity. But names like, I don't know, YGM, names like Troy Pride Jr., names like, I don't know, like we could go down the list of some of these defensive talents that we thought were going to be good and just kind of fizzled or aren't it. So that's it. That's what disappoints me.
Well, look,
now go to the trade talk.
Well, look, man, you know, everybody knows I'm a Matt Corral fan, right? I would like to see what we have in Matt Corral. But I'm also a realist, and I know where there's smoke, there's fire. And the Panthers have chosen to not use a top 10 draft pick on a quarterback for the past, 3 years in a row now when we've had an opportunity to do so. So, with that said, I think that there's something to be said for just not prolonging the inevitable. And I've got to say, man, I kind of think that we might need to get used to the fact that the Panthers are probably going to be looking to trade up for a quarterback. Now, I went on Twitter today and I put out a poll. If the Panthers traded up to number 1, who should they draft? Not who will they draft, but who should they draft? And Tony, it used to kind of be the consensus that Bryce Young was the number 1 guy in the quarterback class this year. But man, with over 646 votes, CJ Stroud with a whopping 70.7% of the vote. And man, listen,
why do you think it's changed so much?
Well, you know what? He's a lot bigger than Bryce Young, probably by like 5 inches and about 30 pounds, maybe.
5 inches. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's a bigger guy. I think they're relatively the same type of mobile in that you're not going to use them to run primarily, but I think they're every bit as mobile as, say, a Joe Burrow is. Joe Burrow is not a super mobile guy, but he can move around when he needs to. Right. So, in my mind, CJ Stroud is more in that frame. And look, I'm not going to lie to you, man. CJ has one of the nicest touch passes that you're going to see on film from any of the quarterbacks this year. And plus, if you remember, his final game of the season, he came within 3 points of defeating the national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs.
If that goes a different way, they go.
Yeah, he's probably
he's the
unanimously
consensus number one at this point.
Yeah, so a lot of people. I mean, CJ Stroud is the name that's on the tip of Panthers fans' tongues right now, and I don't know.
You got to go to number 1.
I've kind of come around.
The only way to get him is to go to number 1.
It's just so rich, though, man.
You cannot believe, if you feel that way, that the other teams who are ahead of you in the draft are going to go, you know what? We just want to play the guy that's going to get us there, like be more consistent now. Let's go with the safer Bryce. You're not going to do that. They're going to pick. He's going to go he's going to be the first quarterback off the board.
So then are you talking that we should trade up to number 1?
And say that. I'm saying that's what you have to do.
We're going to have to give up a lot because let me tell you what, if the Colts decide that they want to move up, they're closer to number 1 than we are.
Right.
So
there's like 3 teams that could move up that are closer.
And Tony, this is what I've been arguing with people online. People are like, oh, it's not even going to cost that much. You're delusional. You are out. If you don't think that this is
3 first-round picks,
an arm and a leg for the Panthers to move up, you're delusional. I don't give a damn about what the Philadelphia Eagles gave to the Browns in 2016 when they drafted Carson Wentz. It will be far more than that. I am telling you. So
there is no way, Cody, that it's less than this. Is that at the very minimum, it's this year's first, next year's first, and then a boatload of 2s and 3s kind of sprinkled in, like this year's 2, next year's 2, and whatever. I really truly think, though, to move from 9, right? We're at 9 to 1, where there's 3 other teams ahead of you that also want quarterbacks, you have to give the max, and the max is 3 years ahead of time. You're giving this year's first, next year's first, and the following year's first.
And Tony, now this is where I have the problem with the draft class, because whenever people hear me say that I don't want to trade up, it's not that I wouldn't like a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young, but when I say that they're not the type of prospect that a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Fields were, that's what makes it all the hard that we're going to be having to give up this kind of draft capital.
Why is he not a Justin Fields?
I just don't think
he seems like he's just as good as Fields.
How about
except for, I guess, the running part.
He's
a better passer.
He does seem to be a very good passer. I feel like Fields has better physical traits.
Is there any fear that he's from Ohio State? And I know you don't like those arguments, but there's never been tell me a good Ohio State quarterback too.
Well, I hear you, but at the same time, all I can do is look at the route concepts and the type of throws that they ask CJ Stroud to make. And he makes some big time throws, and those receivers are running an NFL route tree. So I'm not really too concerned about it. And by the way, Dan, I'll let you go. CJ Stroud has taken snaps under center. So it's not like
not a lot though. Every picture I see him in, he's in the shotgun. That's a great.
He's not coming from a pure
RPO system.
Yeah. He's not running that type of offense. And one thing I do know about him, they give him a lot of control at the line of scrimmage to be able to adjust his protection, make changes at the line. The dude can do it all from a mental standpoint.
They have too good of talent at the receiving core for him to just be a one read and tuck it and run type player. That's not even his game. So you're right about that. Cody, when it comes to the Stroud talk, is it a little recency bias though? And what I mean by that is the last couple of games, right? Like that game against Georgia, right? Just fucking sinking into our head. But if you think back to the beginning of the college season, I think they went and played, who was it? It was a game I was really excited to watch them play. And he was just whelming. It was like in these 2 big games. I don't know if it was the Michigan game or if it was, did they play Penn State? Can't remember if they play. I remember going, oh, this is a big matchup. We're going to watch this. This is the time Stroud is going to remind everybody that they've been sleeping on him because people told us 2 years ago Stroud is going to be the dude. People told us 2 years ago to not get last year's class with Pickett and them. That wasn't it. It's this year's class. So we were still waiting for it. And in the beginning, you're like, oh, Stroud, his name kind of lagged through a lot of the season. He should be the number 1 prospect. Like he was kind of coming into the year, was he not? Who the hell was ahead? Yeah,
him and Bryce Young were the names. Everybody knew that those 2 dudes were going to be pretty highly considered in this year's draft class. And it's not, how about this? It's not like Georgia was the only really good game that he played this year. Every game you watch, you will find clips of CJ throwing these beautiful downfield passes with touch over the middle. The dude has the arm and he has the mind for it. But, something else to consider, he had Marvin Harrison Jr., the best wide receiver in college football.
That's who I want.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, who is another really good type of receiver. And Ryan Day, the play caller in their offense, he is just very good at scheming guys open. But at the end of the day, Tony, your quarterback can only do what they're asked to do. And they didn't ask him to run very much. And that's why
he's not super fast, dude.
He's not.
I watched him. I was like, I was expecting him to be like, oh, you're the guy taking over for Justin Fields. Like, you're going to look fast. And I was like, nope.
I bet you he runs like a 4.
Mac Jones.
Like
Mac Jones.
4.8, maybe a 4.7.
Oh,
yeah,
God,
he's not he's not really going to run away from you. But one of the reasons, Tony, why people hype on that Georgia performance is because it answered a lot of questions that people were wondering about him. How does he deal with pressure? Because pressure was a problem for him on film. He doesn't really run away from pressure that great. Sometimes he kind of drifts into the pressure rather than navigating the pocket and getting away from it. Whereas when he played Georgia, he played the best college defense that there is to be played. And he was doing all the things and checking all the boxes, moving up into the pocket, keeping his eyes downfield, and using his legs as a runner to be able to run and get first downs in a big-time moment in a big-time matchup. So maybe it's recency bias, but that Georgia game is probably the most NFL type of defense that he played his entire
Yeah, they're
college
like always
career.
7 dudes. They're national champs. And here, and recency bias has a negative connotation to it. And if you could spin that and take it from another angle, is this just the fact that he peaked at the right time? As he peaked at the time that's going to help his draft stock the most. His name is surging as Bryce Young's name was at the top in the pinnacle for all throughout. And then now we haven't seen him play in a minute. Alabama didn't go to the national championship. So he's gotten a little distant in our minds. And guess what's become more important is height. Like, oh, he's so small. He's so small. It's so small. So like the tape that was overriding that now has faded, while Stroud's tape towards the end of the season, fanned the flames of his stock. And he's going to surge into the number 1 quarterback right now. And I don't think it's even close at this point, particularly. You guys asked me what I want to do. I think trading up to 1 from where we're at when the teams are ahead of, I just think it's going to be so much.
Yeah.
And he better be like Joe Burrow. Right. That's that's the type of player I need, is a guy like I know is going to just I feel like Joe Burrow is just going to, as long as he don't get hurt, which he's already been hurt once, actually. It's like, as long as those guys are going to deal, him, Mahomes, but I don't know. So much risk with it. My personal thought is, you guys are going to hate it. Bridge quarterback, 1 year, I know, and Hendon Hooker in the second.
Why even spend the second round pick? If you're going to get a bridge, go with Matt Corral as your number 2. There's no reason to not have him there.
No, Hendon Hooker. What I'm just saying is this: you just don't make Hendon Hooker start. No, it's that the idea is that guy just doesn't make it, so Hendon Hooker doesn't have to start. You're just knowing this is Hendon Hooker would have been in this conversation if he wouldn't have gotten hurt. So you just it's just that this is that, are you willing to risk? You don't have to trade at all, and you still get him, and he could be just as good as Stroud, as when it comes to how the talent level. And the only red flag to some people is that he's 25.
He's my QB3. I've got it. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and then Hendon Hooker. I have him above AR and Will Levis. And I really like Anthony
Let me ask you
Richardson
this.
too.
And but I think people are a little. That's they're all projects in their own right, and let me ask you it this way, and then we're going to go to the next topic, and then we got to get back into some calls too. What's more of a risk to you? And I want the callers to weigh in on this. I want you in the chat to weigh in on this. Trading 3 first-round picks and getting Stroud, right? Is that more of a risk, and is the reward alluring enough, or is more of a risk taking Hendon Hooker in the second, trying to get a Jacoby Brissett for 1 year and letting maybe Matt Corral even beat him out this? You know what I'm saying? What's the bigger risk, and is the reward that much different?
No, but I'm a big fan of Matt Corral, and I understand people aren't gonna love this, but I absolutely think that Matt Corral is comparable from a physical talent perspective and a leadership perspective to all the quarterbacks in this draft. I really do. But I understand the argument that you're not going to bet your and I understand the argument that you're not going to bet your future on, a third round quarterback that these coaches didn't even hire or that they didn't even draft. So, I understand the urgency, but I put this on Twitter too. If the Bears know that the Panthers are desperate for a quarterback, they're going to drive up the price. And I'm sorry, I see people like Zach.
Well, they also know that Houston wants one too. It's not even the Bears knowing we're thirsty. That's not the point, Cody. Everybody knows every QB needy team is thirsty. The problem is that if it gets into a bidding war,
right?
If you get into a bidding war, the other people's picks, they have more ammunition,
are more desirable. They're higher up. And so that's what I'm saying, man. And I see people coming at me in the chat. Oh, it's a poverty mindset. We have to do whatever it takes. I'm sorry. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon of literally whatever the Bears want for the first pick. The Panthers need to jump up and down and make it happen. Like, I don't
Well, they just
know,
have
man.
to give more than every other team. That's it. They don't have to jump up and down to make the Bears.
A lot. That's gonna be a lot. It's gonna. In your mind, is there any way? And you already said earlier, it's probably gonna be 3 first round.
That's what I think it has to be.
I don't see another world in which that isn't the scenario. Now, people are also saying, well, you would then have for what you lost in the draft, you would be able to make up with free agency. If you have your O-line, you have your quarterback, maybe you could convince some other guys to come.
You don't got $70 million to spend, though. You don't even have that much.
Unless they can do some.
I think it's next year. They're saying now it's going to take a whole nother year to get past this. Right now, to where so I don't know if there is a super cap voodoo that we can do right now. The Chicago Bears, a lot of these teams have so much cap money too, so they're going to be out there spending in free agency. So you can't get in 2 bidding wars.
But that's what I'm saying,
Imagine
dude.
that.
So and look, I'm going to be very real with a lot of y'all in Panther Nation. Y'all are acting like some thirsty thoughts, okay? Everybody is so thirsty for a quarterback that most have adopted the mindset, whatever it takes to go get CJ Stroud. Go up and get him. And dude, I like CJ Stroud. I just spent the past 10 minutes telling you all the things that I like about him. But if you're gonna tell me that he's worth giving up 3 first round picks and potentially ruining our draft for the next 3 years, I'm sorry, that's a hard sell for me.
You gotta think of it as this: is who does the player that he compares to in ceiling and talent, not a style of play, but think of some names. Like here, let's use.
How about this? Can I give you a high end and a low end comparison? So okay, this is a high end, low end. High end, you're hoping that is Joe Burrow. That high end, that's what you're hoping from CJ Stroud. Low end, maybe a Jared Goff. And Jared Goff had a damn good year this year for the Lions. But, that type of player, they're going to put the ball in the air. They're not very mobile. You're not going to ask them to do a whole lot. But, in that kind of mold.
You almost wonder, I want you guys in the chat to make a list of players that were worth 3 first round picks as a quarterback. Like, I think you would put Luck in there. And even though, and the irony of that is that he retired before everybody. But like thinking back on even the best quarterbacks, the best prospects, sometimes they haven't yielded. Not sometimes, they don't yield as much as you think. Like, is that, you're going to point to Joe Burrow. Maybe you could say he's worth 3 first round picks. You could say like an Andrew Luck. You could say Patrick Mahomes, now that you know what you know. You could say maybe Trevor Lawrence. I get not maybe. I know you guys say that because he was like the most accomplished player in the history of the world, or one of them. So I would accept his name in that. I'm trying to think of another name right off the bat that would just be, think about it, in any scenario worth 3 first-round picks.
Like another quarterback, like that we know.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back as far as you want to go back.
Herbert, I said, probably would have been worth
3 first-round picks. That's crazy.
But Justin Herbert,
we could have just given 1 and gotten him. We only had to move up 2 spots.
It hurts my soul that Justin Herbert is not a Panther.
Let's I want you guys to, in the chat, call in at 252-228-5098. Tell us a quarterback that is actually worth 3 first-round picks outside of Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow at this point. Cody, let's get back into the show right now. I think related to the Carolina Panthers next is that as Frank Reich was hired for the Carolina Panthers position, a lot of Panther fans were upset, disappointed, and I know that Steve Wilks himself was disappointed that he didn't get the head coaching job amidst a very admirable kind of final fight by this kind of impromptu general that had to step in, and Steve Wilks. Steve Wilks, that was headed to San Francisco, and you got to be happy for him. This is at least my man is going to a job where there looks like from the outside, at this point, we don't know how the roster will transition over the short term, but he's going to a really good team with a very talented defense.
So, Tony, I've said it like this. In the NFL, there are 2 jobs that I imagine are more coveted than any other job. It's the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. And if you pay attention to the last 2 years for the 49ers, they have produced 2 head coaches that have head coaching jobs right now. Robert Saleh with the Jets, then DeMeco Ryans stepped up. Now DeMeco Ryans is the head coach for the Houston Texans. And listen, I'm just happy for him, man. And I've said this, earlier. I would have loved for Steve Wilks to be our head coach. I think Frank Reich was the right move. But, not everybody's religious, but to those, who do believe in God, there's a saying, when God closes one door, he's waiting to open a bigger, better one. And I know that that's what happened for Steve Wilks. There's a bigger and better door opening up in his life. And now he gets the opportunity to, finally have a plethora of different talent to be able to use. That 49er defense is absolutely loaded. And I think this is going to be his best opportunity, perhaps even better than it was with the Panthers, to finally land that head coaching job in the NFL at some point down the road. I love me some Steve Wilks. I'm so happy for what he did for the Panthers this season, that he got to be a part of that. He made that season more fun for us, Tony. In the years that we've been doing this show, the end of this past season was better than the past 4 years combined of late November Panther football. So I love him. I'm happy for him. And I wish him the best. I think this is the perfect opportunity for him.
He didn't get the job in Carolina, but he cost us a first-round draft pick. If we trade up into the spot that you guys want him to, is Steve Wilks came in here and he made it more expensive for us to trade up by making us relevant, by winning a few games and giving us a little heart and soul at the end. And it does help us. And what I mean by that is, like, man, guys, think before the day before Steve Wilks took over this team, we were talking about this is here we come, number 1. Here we come, number 1 draft pick. And now we're having to talk about trading 3 first-round draft picks to get the number 1, which is how have we fallen or have we risen? I don't know. It's like what upside down world you want to look at it from. The other thing, the thing I'm most happy about Steve Wilks getting this job is I'm finally happy that he's going to have a defense that he doesn't have to blitz every down to get pressure. And
Right.
when
Good
he
point.
was our defensive coordinator, he only did 1 year as our defensive coordinator, and it was a pretty admirable job he did. The defense wasn't as great. I mean, we were coming from the 2015 to 2016 season. Coney Ely took over full time, didn't work out. So he didn't have the pass rush that you had where you kind of had, what was it, Jared Allen, who came in. We traded for him. I think Charles Johnson. Yeah. So you had some talent on that you didn't have in 2016. And I just remember he blitzed at a rate higher than like any coach. All right, like we were just blitzing like crazy, and it was not because he wanted to. He just had to.
I don't even remember a Panthers team that blitzed as much as that team.
Yeah,
we were.
But he's now going to get to be a balanced coordinator.
Yeah. I'm happy for Steve, man. I'm happy for Steve. Two things can be true. He did the best job for us that he reasonably could have done. And I think that Frank Reich was the right guy for the job, man. I'm happy for
particularly
all
if you're talking
parties
about
involved.
trading up and picking a quarterback and this and that, is that you have to think we're a little bit more well positioned to make that decision, not just us being fans on the outside looking at it, but having a quarterback who is a former quarterback who is now your head coach, who is just starting his tenure, who's coming off of kind of that bridge, but not bringing in the young guy to make it a bridge part. We're better suited to make the decision if we should pull the trigger on a quarterback now with Frank Reich than we would have been with Steve Wilks.
Yeah. Also, if we're going to get the quarterback too, I don't mean to backtrack, but trading up in the first year of your head coach's tenure is also kind of a rough thing, right? To then be hamstrung into not having your first round pick after your first year in the NFL. I don't know. That's just kind of tough. But I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm happy for Steve, and I'm excited to see what this new Panthers team is going to look like, because it feels like on offense and defense, we're finally making changes that are going to be, the first in our history for the Panthers.
All right, what we got next?
So if you're on Twitter like us all the time, you might know that Twitter is for bullshitting, right? Going on there, flying off the seat of your pants, saying whatever you want to. But sometimes as fans, we forget that the Panther players, they go on Twitter too, man, and they see the stuff that people type. So Shaq Thompson, my man was on one. My man was he had time. He was going after some people that he felt were kind of misrepresenting him, saying that he needed to be cut. He's a cap casualty. And there's a lot of interesting conversation behind this. And, even thinking about what does Shaq Thompson's role look like now with the Carolina Panthers if we do move to a true 3-4 type of defense, and you have Frankie Luvu who's come on, and you have Brandon Smith, and you're probably going to draft another linebacker. Then on top of that, Tony Shaq Thompson's cap hit is probably going to be around $23 million this year. It's a lot of money, man. So he was going, people were talking shit on Twitter, and then he decided he wanted to speak his mind. And a lot of people were saying that he was wrong for not being at the press conference when they hired Frank Reich.
That's what started this, actually.
Right.
Someone said that, and I forgot. I didn't get that tweet. But and it's called, I think he's very active in Panthers Twitter. I think it's a dude. I think he has a name. It's called Chubb in a Tub. He ended up apologizing, which I think was nice, his stand up. But you read into everything. He's like the leader, the so-called leader of the team. Now, he does have a point in that, not this, but like he has been the centerpiece of Panthers leadership, whether he wanted to be or not, over the Rule era. You know, so he is the guy that's like the tenured vet who has taken a vocal role, but they were like, oh, he won't even at this press conference. So, and he's overpaid, cut him. That's like where it went. And then he responded to that and he was like, I was taking care of it said something like my women's and sick kids or something.
Yeah,
I was like, how many women you got? You got to take care of. It's like,
he said that he was taking care of sick women. And hey, man, shout out to him for being a good dad, being a good man. But it's not, okay, this is the thing. It's not unfair, right? Panther fans are going to speak their mind on Twitter, okay? And it's not a shock that he's $23 million against the cap. And then he goes on to say nothing's going to change my mindset. It's a business at the end of the day. No hard feelings. Whether I'm here or not, I'm a root for this team and my brothers. Best believe I'm going to be here. We can work something out. Would you take a pay cut at your job? Now, I don't know about that. You can kind of take that two different ways because those last two sentences are kind of at odds with each other. We can work something out, but would you rather take a pay cut at your job? I kind of feel like if you can work something out, that means you're willing to do something with your contract.
He wants to restructure. He'll restructure, but that still fucks us, man. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, he's just
down the road.
Not overpay. Yeah. His pay, he's well compensated for his production. The Panthers have well compensated him. He does is that contract is heavy on our salary cap right now. And I'm not going to fault my man for making money, right? So I'm not going to say he should take a pay cut. Like, I don't think that's it. Is at the end of the day is we just wish, man, we're 4 years into this contract and it's still this heavy. No way out of it. Like, there's no way out of it. Like, you can't even restructure. And then when you restructure, that just adds years.
So then what's the answer here, Tony? Do we cut him? Do we trade him?
The real ideal thing would be to trade. Because somebody brought up this and I looked into the Derek Carr stuff a little bit more. Because I like Derek. I think that would be a good, like, I think even if you got CJ Stroud, you'd still get Derek Carr on a 1-year deal with Frank Reich. You're pretty good this year, and then CJ Stroud takes over next year. That's what I would do. And I don't know if it would work or not. But I was looking at this is that when you trade for Carr, you can't trade for Carr right now. Because when you trade for him, you get the deal that he's on, the base salary. They have to pay the guaranteed money, but you get the base. And he's going to get paid. His base salary next year is $32 million. And it's like that, that's just start money. It's like, and when you think about it with Shaq, that's the thing is that, like, the only way that we're going to offload that salary and you're still going to eat whatever the guaranteed is to trade him. And then, so you have to find another team what team would take on Shaq Thompson?
How old is Shaq now?
I think someone said he was 25. There's no way he can only be 25.
I'm about to look it up.
But the thing is this, they have to pay whatever that number is. So we're just going to have to pay Shaq. Like, we're in a tough spot. So I think the thing almost to do is just suck it up, pay it this year, and then get the hell out of it the next year.
No, he's 28 years old.
Okay.
So listen, a lot of people are saying,
not that old, but he's not that good either. And I hate to say that. That sounds so mean, but he is whelming, bro. He is the official definition of whelming. He's not overwhelming. He's not underwhelming.
He never lived up to what Thomas Davis was able to do at the same position. You can even argue that Frankie Luvu, as an outside linebacker, has been better than Shaq Thompson in certain facets, just because of how aggressive he is, how fast he is. People in the chat room are saying you could re-sign him to an extension to alleviate the cap hit. But I don't know, man. Like, it just seems like right now the ethos is to be young and fast on defense. And I don't know that Shaq Thompson is necessarily either of those things.
I don't know if he, like, how about this? Do you think he's got to be considered an old 28? He's been playing a lot of football, bro. He's been playing a lot. I mean, like, he hasn't been a starter the whole time, but it's not like he's getting faster. And right now, you're not looking at him at 27 years old blowing away people with speed. How's he going to get faster next year? How all of a sudden is he going to get a renaissance at 30 years old? That's not going to it doesn't seem likely for that to happen. You know, can you have a renaissance when you never had a first birth, right? In that sense. Speaking of Frankie Luvu, now that you bring his name up, he might be the most exciting guy to see what the Ejiro Evero can do with.
Yeah, dude, Luvu's a beast.
Like, that
man.
might be the type of player that would work in that transition to where all of a sudden now he's like going to be he could potentially be a household name.
I mean, I want to see what we have in Brandon Smith. And listen, how about this? I feel like Frankie Luvu, based on what he was able to do last year, number 2 in sacks on the team, by the way, I feel like he's more important to the Carolina Panthers right now. And he's been on the team 2 years now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Luvu Thompson, in my own opinion, never had that kind of jump.
And we're not
shitting on him. And granted, I even said that when he wore that number 7, I felt like he played better. Yeah,
he's had some moments. He's had some moments. I'm also a victim of, you know, like, you just want to be right about things. So like I admit that I hold a little grudge to Shaq Thompson because I got so on board with the pick when we made it. And it was like I think it was a 2015 pick or something like that. And like, I mean, think about where we were at, you know what I'm saying? We had just 2013. Like, I was just feeling good. And it was pitched to me. Shaq Thompson, they talked about Shaq Thompson the way you used to talk about Isaiah Simmons. Right? It's just like, oh, he's so versatile. He could do, you know, like, he's just an athlete. He was a baseball player. He was, you know what I'm saying? It's like all of that. They played him at Buffalo nickel. So you were so excited about it, bought his jersey before he even played a snap. And it's just been, he's been all right.
I love Shaq, but it's time to move on.
Think about these names.
You know.
Ejiro Evero, Frankie Luvu, and let's go get Jimmy Ward. You want to talk about that? That's a 30-year-old safety who I think is could be a big addition at free safety for this defense. That's who I want. That's my go ahead. I'm dropping that name. What else do we got after Shaq Thompson? Not bantering. That's messed up. Oh, ugh. This one got Panther fans riled up today. The Hassan Reddick. Look, somebody said this in the chat. Tony, that's the first good thing you said. Dang, we've been on air for an hour and 15 minutes. I finally said something good. Hassan Reddick. How about this? Hassan Reddick, you know, this is fun about the Super Bowl is you get so many stories. They spend so much time with the media and you get so many kind of, they open up a little bit about some different things. Hassan Reddick was asked about his exit from Carolina and joining the Philadelphia Eagles as a free agent. And he said, you want to play the video? Yeah, I think that'll be fair. I'll let you guys draw your conclusions about this, and we'll argue about it.
After your success in Carolina, what made you want to test the free agency market again? After your success in Carolina, what made you want to test the free agency market?
It wasn't that I wanted to test free agency. Carolina just had other plans and other directions that they wanted to go to.
So what do you make of that? He didn't want to test free agency, but the Panthers had other directions that they wanted.
I don't think that is how I read it at all. Like when he said he didn't want to test free agency, it didn't mean that he didn't mean like, oh, I cared about I was opposed to of testing free agency. I was wanting to stay in Carolina. I think he's just announcing this as he didn't say, oh, I want out. Like he didn't write the Carolina Panthers off as a potential suitor in free agency. He was hitting free agency regardless. And what I'm just saying is I think he's trying to position himself as I didn't say no to the date. Like it wasn't like he was like, I don't want to be in Carolina. I think that's what he meant there.
I mean, no, wait, say that last part one more time.
That he just like his whole point. I think all he's saying here is never said I didn't want to be in Carolina. That's all I think he's saying is like I never said that. It was like it wasn't off the table, but they wanted me less. They didn't want me enough. That's all I would say.
God of Blackness says he wanted to stay, but Brian Burns fire. By the way, David Screws also donated, said let's go Super Bowl staff with the $2. Thank you, David. No, I have a problem with this, Tony. You and I are gonna have to be at odds once more. No, I think this is dumb. I think it was dumb that we decided to, one, let this man go, and then number two, sign Dante Jackson over Stephon Gilmore. And I was really happy with the Dante Jackson signing when it happened, but I think those were two high-end veterans, and especially Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick was playing his best ball the past 2 years. He was our primary pass rusher. He was snubbed for the Pro Bowl. Did y'all remember that? Hassan Reddick,
well, he had more sacks than Brian Burns, and I think did Brian Burns make it last year?
He made the Pro Bowl, so that's my point. You don't just let go, in my opinion, of players that want to be a part of your organization. And to me, this goes back. Remember when Matt Rule said, "Oh, I thought it was a 4-year plan, a 5-year plan." I would have signed more free agents if I would have known. Oh no, you only have 1 or 2 years. So in my mind, this is just our dumb fuck organization led by an absolute clown in Matt Rule that let two of the more talented people on the roster walk out of the door. It's insanity, man. That Eagles defense is loaded from top to bottom. And you can make the argument Hassan Reddick is the best player on their defense.
You didn't disagree with me one bit, Cody.
Yeah,
I didn't disagree. I'm not. You're not disagreeing with me
here, and the organization forced him out.
I don't think that Hassan Reddick wanted to be anywhere where the best deal wasn't. He just came off of 12 seasons. Like, is that he might? I don't care how much I want to be in Carolina if I'm him. If they ain't paying me what the Eagles can pay, then I ain't gonna be there. And I think that's just what he's saying is that it's not that I didn't want to be with the Carolina Panthers. They made their priorities, and I wasn't one of them. I think? And yeah, I think this is, well, I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's easy to say this.
The fact that we're paying Shaq and Dante instead
we already were paying Shaq. Like that one doesn't get the count. I will agree with the Dante. On an even scale, would we be better with Hassan Reddick or not? The answer is yes, clearly. Right. But the idea is how much would you have to make him a priority to have actually gotten him last year? How would that have affected your ability to maybe pursue Austin Corbett? How would it have affected your ability to go after, who was the other one we did? Didn't we get 2 linemen in free agency? Corbett and Bozeman. Yeah. And so, like, I mean, yes. And on paper, like just yes or no, I thought Reddick, I was a huge Reddick fan last year. I loved him. He's like the most exciting thing about the team last year in so many ways. So, yeah, I would want him. Now, I tell you this is, would we be a better team right now if we had him for the next 2 years? And can you find a way to keep Burns? That tandem could be real good. Like that defense would be a lot further ahead too if we had him.
Yeah, man. I mean, every time I see him ball out, it hurts me on the inside, man. It really
Dante was a risk. Dante was a risk. Is
Yeah.
he was cheaper than Stephon Gilmore,
shorter and more injury prone.
right? But he's more risky because of he hasn't played a full season
Right.
since like rookie year. So you tried
Right.
to hope that he was going to be healthy and get a deal that was a year longer, year and a half, 2 years longer than if you would have gotten Gilmore, right? You would have paid just as much with Gilmore on shorter time span. I mean, it was risky. This is the thing is you almost, and I've kind of learned this with fantasy football, is you don't want to bet too much on somebody coming off of injuries. It's not that it doesn't happen. It's not that they can't be good, but a lot of times it takes a year longer than you want it to take. And betting on somebody that's coming off an injury, Dante was coming off an injury the year before. It's just risky. It's like paying Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. And ultimately, kind of what God of Blackness is saying here with another $5 love bomb. Basically, it was between Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick. And to having to be paying both of those guys, they felt that was a bridge too far. But
what if we don't pay Brian Burns, though? Imagine that. That's assuming we actually pay Brian Burns. How about this, though, is if you had to choose between one or the other, is like, what is a better defensive player to build around? Is Brian Burns easier to build around? And is Reddick a good player, or like a great player on a good defense and a good player on an okay defense? Because you have to remember too, there's like 7. Their defense is fucking incredibly talented.
But also, how about this?
It's not just him out there wrecking. They had 70 sacks this year.
But listen, but this is how I can counteract that. His final year with the Cardinals, he had 10 plus sacks. Then he comes to the Panthers, has 10 plus sacks. Then he goes to Philadelphia, and he has 15 sacks. It seems like no matter what team you put him on, Hassan Reddick is a productive pass rusher, man. I'm telling you, my man looks like a baby Von Miller. He has that kind of athleticism, dude. And it's just so tough knowing that we let that kind of player walk out of the door, man. It's just tough.
It does. It sucks. I'm just excited to see him. Like, this is the type of defense he can fucking eat in, bro.
Yeah,
look, they have 3 players in the secondary, and Bradbury, Darius Slay, and now the Chauncey Gardner, whichever I'm all getting confused with Sauce, who's from
Chauncey Gardner Johnson.
Yeah, Chauncey, he is a good player. That wouldn't be a terrible addition to the Carolina Panthers either. I mean, we're looking at free agency coming. He's hitting free agency, but that secondary allows them more time up front to get the quarterback.
Yeah.
Right. They have big boys in the middle. That's a type of defense that Hassan Reddick can just fucking go bananas in. But if you put him in our defense this year, he wouldn't have had 17 sacks. I mean, he could have had 13. No, I mean, it's just like I feel like that's the perfect spot. It's just he's such a compliment to where they are right now.
Yeah,
it
but
almost
that's
is like I'm rooting for him to be in that defense instead of seeing him waste away on a Carolina Panthers.
Every single defense that he's on, no matter the talent around him, he ends up becoming the primary pass rusher on the Cardinals, the Panthers, and the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think that there's anything to him being a complimentary piece. I think he is a premier pass rusher in the NFL. And I think God of Blackness is right. The more the Panthers continue to look at the books, having 2 highly paid defensive ends, it was probably just too rich for him. And I don't know. We made a mistake. One of the things that I said earlier, Tony, Fitterer, his job has never been more important than right now. We can't have any more of the Panthers paying for players who don't put up the very highest level of productions. No more playing or paying these middle of the pack players that are either hurt every year or they're good, but they're not necessarily elite level players. Like, no, it's time to step our shit up and pay the very best of the best. And right
Just
now,
don't sign
I
deals
hold that
too long.
against Bitterer.
Just don't sign deals that are too long.
Yeah.
All right. The number's 252-228-5098. Let's go in back to the cat calls. See what we got here.
Cover me for a minute.
Yo, what's up, C3? It's JJ. Coming back at y'all with another call. You already know how I love calling y'all. But I just remember how this past Friday free-for-all, I mentioned, Brian Burns is better than Hassan Reddick, and I'm going to stand on that because he plays the harder position. Even though maybe he was 2 sacks short from when they were playing on the same team, that doesn't necessarily mean Hassan Reddick was the better player. It just means he might have had the better or more productive season. It doesn't necessarily mean you're always the better player. But I mentioned Brian Burns made the Pro Bowl over Hassan Reddick, and another dude in the Friday Football said Tyler Huntley made the Pro Bowl this year. Well, first of all, none of the initial Pro Bowl starters were going to the Pro Bowl for the AFC quarterback. But that's besides the point. All of us Panther fans know damn well the Carolina Panthers and their players get zero credit. They never get the recognition they truly deserve. They never
Who
do.
didn't get it?
DJ Moore, Frankie Luvu, J.C. Horn, they're all underrated in comparison to the rest of the league. They never get that kind of credit. So the one player who does get that credit, we're going to discredit him? I don't know.
Oh, Brian Burns
said that in the
okay.
Friday Food Fraud. I think it might have been White Chocolate. But no, bro, we're not going to discredit Brian Burns for his accomplishments and being the one player on our team that actually gets some recognition because he's a star in the making. Like, come on. Let's show some respect. All right. Love the podcast, C3. Use code C3.
I think the thing I take away from that is that we don't have to disparage Brian Burns to compliment Hassan Reddick, and we don't need to disparage Hassan Reddick to compliment Brian Burns. I do think this is that Reddick is one of those players that has overperformed, exceeded his expectations at his last 2 stops here and the Eagles. He has played. We got him on such a cheap deal last year, too. He was like nothing. He didn't cost anything. He played for us relatively for free in comparison to what he put up. He has outproduced guys, but he's made his shit. Hassan Reddick's good. Hassan Reddick's good. I don't know. I'm not even in love with Brian Burns. I'm not even a super Brian Burns defender, but I don't feel like I have to detract from me either. It's one of those guys like this is that, like, I hate talking junk about the best players on my team.
Yeah.
Is that at the end of the day, is that, I can talk junk. I mean, like but he's still like better than the other.
Yeah, but we're also not
10
necessarily
guys out there.
So we're not necessarily talking junk either. We're talking about Reddick and him moving on and what caused us to move on from him. But that meant that this season was even more impressive for Brian Burns, that he had a career high in sacks, and literally every team that we went up against knew that Brian Burns was the only pass rush that we had. Tony, our second in sacks was Frankie Luvu at number 5. So they were doubling, they were double teaming Brian Burns all the time. And Tony, how many years in a row now have we mentioned how many near misses Brian Burns has every season, where if he's just one step closer or one step to the left or right on a certain particular play at a certain particular time, and he could have had another 5 sacks every single season. His potential is up with the very highest pass rushers in the NFL.
Are you still saying
Burns.
that? Are you
I
still
do 1,000%.
Oh my
I
God.
want that. I don't think
Can I make a controversial point.
I don't believe that, for example, TJ Watt is some type of player that is just levels ahead.
You're crazy.
Of
Yes,
Brian
he
Burns.
is.
I disagree. I disagree.
His production alone, what he's already done, has been levels above.
And that's the conversation with Burns. A lot of people feel that he hasn't lived up to his potential, but he has gotten better every single year.
Here's a hot take for you. Looking back at this year for Brian Burns, is it that much of a better year than he's had the last 3 years before it? Like you look back at that. Okay, so you're just going to look at just the sack statistic only.
And pressures. He was one of the top 5 in pressures.
Just remembering back into this season, do you think it was anything much better? Like significantly? So you think this past year he's like really stepped up in comparison? I think he was pretty good the first 3 years or whatever.
Yeah, but
so I would say he's pretty good. I would say he was a little bit better this year.
But again, when you add in all the other circumstances, he was our primary pass rusher, and it was a secret to no one. He was the guy, and yet he still put up as many sacks as he did. Imagine if the Panthers...
I thought you said Luvu was the guy.
But that's my point. That's a problem. If your outside linebacker in a 4-3 defense is number 2 on your team in sacks, that's an issue. Because that means it's nobody else on your defensive line. We're not getting enough pressure on the line. And when we do, it's always Brian Burns.
This is Joseph Broach. I'm with you. Joseph Broach. This is exactly it, is that he's been good. He's been important to our team. I hate talking junk about the players who are actually the most talented on my actual team. But we are, as Joseph said, go back to that comment one back before, is we are going into his 5th season, and we're still waiting on potential. We're still waiting on the more to come. The Brian Burns to turn it on, as he points. Michael Igwe says he's already turned it on. Okay, so that's the turn it on then. Is he at the close to the apex of his powers?
Yes, okay. All by myself.
All right, elite. He is, and I've been asking this. Do the Carolina Panthers have any? And I haven't asked it tonight, but do we have any superstars? And are you guys confident? Those people that says he's already turned it on. I mean, are you confident that he is a superstar? Does he count, and is he classified as a superstar? Is he not getting the credit, as the caller was saying before? The Carolina Panthers not getting the credit. I think the Panther fans give him plenty of credit. I think they give him plenty of grace. And you guys keep telling me he's going to be the best. And I hope he is. And now especially. And I hope he's the best as a Carolina Panther, because if we just let him walk and he becomes the best, then I'm going to be really fucking
How about
pissed.
this? Do you think that you've seen everything that Brian Burns is capable of? Do you think there's a better pass rusher in there, or is that just him?
I just wonder if it's incrementally. No, is that like, if that's my question is can he be a dominant player? It's not just being a good pass rusher. It's about being like great in all phases. You know what I'm saying? It's like, can he get 15 sacks in a season? Yeah. But can he also be an every down defensive end who's not alive, like who is doing all the things? I don't know. Is that this? I would say he's been good. He has been very good. I don't know if I would say he has been, but like, what do you classify as, like, can he become the star of the league, like a Von Miller level player? I don't know. That's pretty high.
And again, if we don't have a DeMarcus Ware on this football team, there's no Nick Chubb on this football team opposite Brian Burns. And I like what Michael Igwe says here: top 10 in sacks, top 5 in pressures, top 5 in tackle for losses. What else do you want him to do? It only doesn't seem, and he played through injuries this year. So the only reason why Brian Burns doesn't seem more impressive is because he's a one-man army. He's a one-man army. We're almost expecting too much of him.
I agree, and I'm fine with that. But you guys keep telling me he's going to be this, like, you throw names out like the Bosas. It might as well call him, be like, oh, he's going to be, what is this, ceiling Myles Garrett? I don't think it's that.
Even Bosa, they have dudes on that team.
True.
If it's not Bosa, they're not. Yes, Bosa is their main pass rusher, but they are not dependent upon Bosa. The Panthers are dependent upon Brian Burns for a consistent pass rush. That's the difference.
If any, yeah, the only pass rush. I agree with that 1,000%.
Yeah, 100.
I'm not trying. All right, let's go to the next goal.
Yo, what it do, C3? Anthony from Charlotte. Hope y'all boys are having a good Tuesday.
What up, Anthony?
Just a couple thoughts here. I didn't call in last week, been really hella busy, but want to get down to the business first. I want to congratulate Steve Wilks for the DC job. I think this is a situation kind of like our DC, you know, he may leave after next year to get that head coaching position so we could get some draft compensation. Great coach. As you guys know, my opinion is on Steve Wilks. I wanted him as the head coach. So going on the quarterback and, you know, what's going on with the team right now, I'm one of those guys where I personally, I do want to trade up. I'm a big CJ Stroud guy and Bryce Young, but, you know, Bryce Young is my number one, but just based on what all the talk is right now and how he may fall in the draft, you know, I don't think he fits what Reich wants. You guys talked about this last week with the height, and I think it really does mean a lot. Like, I don't think Reich wants a smaller QB. So if you're going to trade up, I hope it's CJ Stroud, but if we don't trade up, I'm not going to be mad, man. You know, like, in my opinion, I do like Derek Carr a lot. I think he's the definition of consistency. I think he's been with a trash organization. So if Reich was to sign a QB, fine, like a Derek Carr, but this is where it comes in for me. If you're going to sign Derek Carr, you still need a backup option. Shout out to Tony. He said this last week, you know, if Reich's going to sell this to Tepper, then there's got to be a backup plan for later down the line. Carr's 32, so he's probably got like 3 good years left, in my opinion, 3 or 4. I still think you need to take a flyer on a QB. I like all the hires we've made. You know, the DC, awesome hire for our scheme. And, you know, we'll get that offensive coordinator soon, but I think Reich's going to be calling majority of the plays, which I'm happy about. And I think that's part of the reason that he was brought in here, in case the OC doesn't know what he's doing in some situations, so Reich can take over if he has to. But yeah, you know, those are my thoughts on the situation. It's draft season. I just can't wait for the draft. And yeah, man, Anthony from Charlotte, give me y'all's thoughts on the quarterback position and, you know, how you like the direction of this team going. Anthony from Charlotte, keep.
Oh, unmute. The quarterback situation.
Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony. The quarterback, great name, by the way. The quarterback situation will continue to dominate the Carolina Panthers discussion until it doesn't at this point. I mean, look, as we knew, what we got up here maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, Cody, and I was like, what do we talk about? And you were like, I mean, I wasn't saying like, oh, we can't, I don't know anything to talk about. It was like, what else can we talk about is the head coach until we get a head coach. And then after that, the quarterback after you get the head coach. Like, that's just everything else is going to be so dependent upon that. And you're kind of wondering about that bridge quarterback. Do you get a rookie? Do you trade up? All of these things that we've talked about a lot earlier. The thing, though, is that when I say a bridge quarterback, he was saying, good Lord, 3 and 4 good years. That must be the best case scenario. Think about this, is Matt Stafford, who everybody thought was way better than Carr, is already hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like you're like they got a 1 year. He's done in this way. Is that maybe he's not done, but that's how it almost feels. Carr's nowhere is I would be fine with it for like a year, but you would have to get Stroud too. Like, and I don't know. You can substitute any name here, but as I started to look even more into it, here's the problem. He's just fucking expensive, dude. And the Raiders have to trade him, and if they don't trade him, they're gonna lose some money. But either way, Carr is gonna get paid like $30 million.
Oh yeah, that dude's laughing all the way to the bank.
Think about that, $30 million, and he could be like another Sam Darnold here.
Would you rather play with him this entire year or play against him this entire year? Because
he's meeting with the Saints.
Yeah, Ian Rappaport says the Saints invited quarterback Derek Carr for a visit, and the Raiders have granted permission for that to happen. The plan is for a visit tomorrow. Carr has a no-trade clause, is doing his due diligence, and no trade is imminent. When Dennis Allen was the Raiders head coach, he inserted a highly touted rookie into the starting lineup in 2014. That player was Derek Carr.
You're going to hate me.
All right, go ahead.
Is that if this is for somebody who has actually been open to the idea of Carr being a quarterback for a team temporarily, honestly, I think I'd rather have Jameis Winston than him. And Jameis Winston's coming from the Saints. Like, you know what? If that's what we're going to do, if we're just going to bring in a guy to get us through a year, fuck paying Derek Carr $34 million at this point. Give me unintentionally funny, the most funniest person in the world, Jameis Winston. Is Jameis Winston any less of an accomplished quarterback than Derek Carr? And I would say no. He just throws more picks.
I would say Derek has probably reached higher highs. But
really?
if you're even making that comparison, that's how you how you know it's the wrong move in the first place, man. I would rather play against Derek Carr than to play with him on my team. I don't know, man. He doesn't do it for me, dude. I feel like I have seen Derek Carr in big moments shit the bed almost every single time. In the biggest moments, he'll throw these dumb interceptions, like right to the defender. He's not very mobile, so he's going to be very dependent upon the protection. And I know every quarterback.
Here's where I challenge you on that. Here's where I challenge you on that is you haven't seen him make big mistakes in big moments. He ain't even been in big moments. That's the real problem is, yeah, he's done those in moments, but like they have been irrelevant for his entire time that he has been the quarterback.
They've had
he's just going to become relevant now?
They've made the playoffs before, and he has come close.
He's never had a playoff win.
He's made the playoffs? When they played the Chargers, I believe it was last year.
No, they did. Did they make the playoffs last year?
Came down to the last game of the season between them and the Chargers.
Right, and they did the stupid thing where they could have tied, and they both not the stupid thing, but they just went ahead and won it. Has he ever had a playoff win?
No way. Off the top of my head, I don't believe so.
They've been irrelevant. So as I agree with your point, I'm agreeing with that could make him making mistakes in moments, but I'm saying
but
even
Jameis has never done that either. So again, it's like,
has Jameis never been to?
You're in no man. If you're deciding between those two, you're in no man's land. I only marginally.
I know, but Jameis would be like $5 million.
Yeah, still, man, just for a couple of yucks when he makes a dumb joke or says something stupid in an interview, like, nah, that's not enough for me, man. I want good ass football.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying is that if it's Derek Carr or Jameis Winston, is there really that big of a difference in your expectation for the future?
I don't know, man.
I don't think so. I think is that like it's just another guy. He's a jag, just another guy. But how about this? Look, he's a name that people are interested in right now. Jameis Winston's a forgotten man. He's completely forgotten. Like he's like I don't even know what's happened to him.
Andy Dalton beat him out. He was hurt, and then when he was healthy, they decided Dalton gave them a better chance than James.
Somebody else's stock has risen though. Strangely, Derek Carr is going to make more money than everybody in a sense, and he hasn't. His stock isn't even gone up or down. It's just been meh. Daniel Jones, bro. The Daniel Jones is going to hit free agency, or he's hitting free. He's in a kind. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. The Giants just had their best season in like almost 6 or 7 years, something like that. And he was very good late in the season and into the playoffs. Like he has the leverage here. Imagine the New York Giants. What do the Giants have to sign him? And we're talking about Derek Carr, $32 million. Derek Carr is if you traded for Derek Carr, you have to pay $32 million. We haven't paid. We probably have 3 quarterbacks on the roster, and for the last 5 years, I haven't paid half of that.
And by the way, this means that the Saints are willing to give up whatever is required for Derek Carr if they want him, because they're not going to let him go to a team that isn't going to be willing to match the compensation that they want in a trade. So
the Raiders will trade him for anything, dude, because they can't bring him back and they don't want to pay him anything. So
how about this? I hope Derek Carr goes to New Orleans. I hope it happens.
Daniel Jones, though. That's what I want to know. Is that $38 million? Think about that. Daniel Jones. I thought we were talking about it.
Did you mute yourself? Did you want to talk about Daniel Jones?
I just wanted to mention it. I just want to mention it as we're talking about these quarterbacks going around. It's expensive.
Yeah, Daniel Jones is they're saying it's going to be between 35 and 37 million per year. God, dude, that's so much money for a quarterback that just this year
you don't even like.
Yeah,
think about paying Derek Carr. Think about how mad everybody's been at Baker Mayfield, how mad everybody's been at Sam Darnold. Imagine paying them twice as much money and then getting the same production.
Yeah, that's asinine, dude. That's fucking absurd.
All right, let's go to the next call.
What's going on, C3 Nation? This is your boy Jay Anderson eating y'all up.
What up, Jay?
First of all, I want to say, I'm cool. I'm good with the hire of Ejiro Evero. I think that's how you say his name. I'm bad. Sometimes I'm bad with pronouncing names. But I think it's a good hire, man. He had a great defensive scheme with Denver. Last year he did a great job with Denver. One thing I want to get on some people that I saw on Twitter saying we got an elite all-star coaching staff. And I'm looking at the list of the coaching staff, and we only have 5 people in. My thing is, it's kind of like pump your brakes. I mean, we only got 5 people already in. I'm we missing a lot. We missing the OC. We missing the tight ends coach. We missing the wide receiver coach. And I'm more of, we kind of need to pump our brakes and stuff. I understand the hype. I understand of being excited of a new regime because of the whole Matt Rule situation and stuff like that, and just something new. But sometimes I think you can be excited, but you also got to be humble. I mean, it's just some people just need to be humble. I myself, it's all right, we got these pieces. Now I want to see how it works. I'm one who wants to see it on the field. You can bring in everything on paper. I don't care about paper because, you don't win championships on paper. You win championships on the field. And I want to see how all of that works on the field. Because just because you got a great defensive coordinator, you probably could have a bummy ass defensive back coach. So I want to see all that work in before I even get excited. And I'm not knocking anybody from getting excited and stuff like that. I understand that it's like, but the whole elite and all-star coaching staff, when you only got 5 people in already, I think that's just bogus. But that's just me. Anybody got a problem with it? I mean, hey, that's you. But that's from my perspective. I don't get the whole elite and all-star staff with only 5 people still in. All right.
Every time I hear the word elite, I think of Matt Rule.
I think of the opposite of Matt Rule.
I know, but it's like it almost ruined the word for me. So is that like elite used to mean a really cool, very talented group of people, and then I heard Matt Rule say the word elite for the last 2.5 years, and it turns out that elite really meant a bunch of bullshit.
You know what he ruined? You know what he ruined for me? Well, at the end of the day, anytime I or anyone else says at the end of the day, I can't not fucking think about Matt Rule, dude.
I know.
It's so annoying. I can't stand it.
Who would have known that elite meant dog shit at your job?
But dude, how could we have done any better than what we did, man? Like it's so early in the process. Like we're not done building the team.
I think it's exciting right now. I think it's exciting. Is that I would say I think that Pat McAfee. I think, and I didn't get to see it, so I'm hearing somebody talk about Pat McAfee's show today, and he said this is potentially, as you look at like Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, and those names, did it actually turn out that Frank Reich was really the belle of the ball? Like, is he actually the best? If you think about like what might be the best for our future or any team's future, is Frank Reich really the best pick of the litter? Potentially. All he's got to do is get one Super Bowl, and then he just to be just as good as Peyton. It's like what separates you? Is he really? He might be the dude. We'll see. Before we get too far into the next call and this and that, I have to remind you guys that the C3 Panthers podcast is sponsored by PrizePicks, and PrizePicks is the website to go to, the app, the engine of daily fantasy football sports. And I tell you what, you will love it. You get to go and make money, real money, safe and secure, easy to deposit, easy to withdraw, and you can make a lot of it. You can also be frustrated. Using the promo code C3, you can get a 100% deposit match on your first time deposit. And right now is the time to do it, because one great thing about PrizePicks, they know we love playing. They know we love being like looking forward to all of this. And I popped up the screen, Cody, and guess what they got right now? A free square.
Yep.
You got a free play right now, which automatically enhances your odds to win. Right now, going Patrick Mahomes on the free square in the Super Bowl. Don't forget to use promo code C3. Now, the way PrizePicks works, folks, is that you have to pick multiple picks, similar to like a parlay type system. Is the more picks you make, the greater the payouts, right? But you're not gambling. You are playing daily fantasy football sports, and you are just simply playing against over more or less against the projection, the line that they set on that player. All Patrick Mahomes has to do is pass 1 yard, and that counts as one of my plays here. We got to find at the minimum one more, but bro, I got to use this freebie to make some moolah on this Super Bowl. We're going to find a quick one. Jalen Hurts.
Didn't you already put $25 on last Tuesday on the 0.5?
Did I?
Yeah.
Was that here last Tuesday?
Go under your
already?
entries. Go under your entries.
Did I already do it? Oh,
yeah, you sure did. You sure did.
Still up there. Okay. Dang it, I got excited. All right. Well, guess what? That still works for you guys. You're exactly right. All right. Well, now we got to just win it all for ourselves right here. Where are we looking at? Passing yards.
Man, do Do passing.
Let's do this here. Rushing yards. We'll go through it. Miles Sanders 60, Pacheco 48. I wouldn't be messing with any of these numbers right here. This one's an interesting one. It's not something, it's kind of risky. You know what I'm saying? Is that
what's his numbers?
46 and a half. He has not, he stayed in the pocket, like, but he didn't like they dominated so much in the last game. Is
Well, he's
that
been hurt,
basically
too.
yeah, the closer the game is, though, the more potential he is gonna have to bust out a run. You know, and that's the way you make that number. Pocket breaks down and he picks up 15, he picks up 20 and big chunk at one time, and then they use them somehow. It's still it's not something I feel great about. Another thing I never do is mess with anybody in rushing yards for the Chiefs. Look, they don't even have their other running back up here.
Hey,
It's just Pacheco.
Go to
Oof.
receiving.
Yeah.
Go to receiving touchdowns.
Receiving touchdowns.
On
punts. Let's see. Here's receptions. Like this, like AJ Brown. I'm taking that one.
Well, there's
that's a lot of catches, Kelsey. Oh, is that what you just want to go? Is after Kelsey?
Kelsey has a for a touchdown.
Where is it?
Let me look at mine.
Rush. Here it is. I got it. Will he get a touchdown? Didn't we do that one last week? We did that one last week.
Probably so, but that's money though.
Think so? Like no. What's this one? Rushing, reception, touchdowns.
White chocolate says Pacheco receiving yards. Just one to look at.
Let's see.
Let me tell you mine, dude. I had a nice
tell me.
one
Tell me. I need some help, bro. I've been on this. I don't trust myself right now. It's Kadarius Toney, 23 yards. I feel like they've been using him more lately. He just didn't do anything in the last. Look at that.
All right. I have the Patrick Mahomes at the 0.5. I have Jalen Hurts at more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. I have Travis Kelce at more than 0.5 receiving touchdowns. Dude, that's free.
You have so. I mean, it's
I agree. Look, Anthony said the same thing, dude. That's you have to have that one. And I have Isaiah Pacheco and Miles Sanders at more than 108.5.
Look at that. Oh, that's what he's saying right there. Pacheco has to catch one pass out the backfield. All right, this is what I'm rocking with. I'm rocking with Pacheco more than 14.5 receiving. Toney more than 23.5 receiving. Kelsey and AJ Brown more than 5 receptions. There we go. Using the promo code C3. Here, let's just share what this would do. I dropped a 20 spot on that. And if that was I did the PowerPoint. I didn't even go flex, did I? Nope. I just went all in.
Season's almost over, baby. We gotta go all in.
This would pay 10 times if they all hit 20 into 200. Need it, baby. Need to pull both of these off. I went all in on this Super Bowl. We got to start thinking about watching the Super Bowl. It's like it's going to be right around the corner, just days away. Let's go to the next call. The number is 252-228-5098. That's 252-228-5098. Don't forget PrizePicks, promo code C3.
Hey guys, it's the growl that makes them howl.
So quiet, Joey.
Joey the Blind Panther, whose roar you stopped on the intro today. But
did we?
That
you stopped it early.
How did I stop it?
I'm already loving what Frank Reich is
noticed
doing and the guys that he's bringing in. Now, I love Steve Wilks, and I'm very happy that he got to go and be on Kyle Shanahan's coaching staff. I mean, you don't get called up by the big one that often. So good for him. And as for the Panthers, look at our division. Yeah, Brady just retired unless the Bucs. And I have a question about an article. I heard somewhere that Tom Brady said that us making him eat shit, not score a touchdown played a part in his decision to retire. I don't know how true that is because we've never been that relevant since Cam Newton was here. But if it is, that's freaking awesome. But look at our division, dude. The Bucs don't have a quarterback. The Saints have Dennis Allen as their head coach, and they don't really have a quarterback. And the Falcons are the Falcons. Dude, we have the best coaching staff in the division. And we look the best on paper, which, yeah, guys, we always look good on paper. Always. You notice that? We always look good on paper, and then we suck. So, I'll just leave you with that. I'm really excited about Ejiro Evero. I'm about that shit. Anyway, guys.
Wow. Hey, I like that. Tony, I haven't heard one person who isn't excited about Ejiro Evero.
I think
Everybody's
it's
pretty
because
pumped.
we're familiar enough with names that and terminology surrounding him. And what I mean by that is like the Broncos, right? And we know the Broncos had a pretty good defense, so we're familiar with that. You can say like with the Rams in the secondary, and they were in the Super Bowl, so you can think about that. And then you can think about Fangio. You've heard that name. If you would have just said like, oh, this is the next up and coming defensive coordinator though from like college or something I didn't know anything about like that, it would be more daunting. So I think that makes that familiarity in a sense like is that he's been around the league, so you can throw those names out, that pedigree. It's not just one thing. It's not just Denver. It's like 2 or 3 other things that are sounding cool about it.
Yeah.
Then he was interviewed for a head coaching job. So there's some just things that right away that make it just soften it to you, right? And then you're like, oh, well, then it becomes exciting. So like I don't know how you could not be like excited about it. Like it's the best name that other people are talking about. Like tell me who would have been better? Flores, who just got the job with Minnesota? I don't think so. It's like, how can you not be excited about it? Like, what would be the better? Yeah. That's why I like the Frank Reich thing too, is, you know what, to be honest, just thinking about it is like, it comes with a kind of a comfort. Like Peyton would have come with stress. The Sean Payton pick would have come with stress. His personality. Then you got to defend whether or not he's worth it. The trade, then we'd be dealing with Saints fans all the time. It'd just be stress everywhere. We'd be going like to war with our thoughts about it. This, I'm just like, hell yeah, I want to rock with these guys.
Yeah, man. I'm really happy about Ejiro, man. I think I'm more pumped about him than I would have been about Flores. No lie. Like,
yeah,
I think Flores is
like
really
a guy that comes with the weight of a head coach right away.
He's the young guy with the hot name. Right now, dude, Ejiro Evero is all the rage right now, dude. And he's a Carolina Panther, man.
Amen.
That's what matters.
And the idea of somebody leaving another team, turning down the Vikings for us, that makes it feel cool too. Just makes it like, oh man, we got chosen. Next call.
What's up, C3? It's Anthony. Just a quick part too. Just wanted to talk about some stuff. First off, this Hogwarts Legacy game is fire, man. Like if y'all haven't tried it, it is awesome. Like just choosing your own
Expelliarmus
Slytherin, all that. It is awesome. It's a great game. And second, me and Cody Latt were talking about this a little bit, but if you want to trade up, you need to know what quarterback you want. Like, Panther fans, from what I've been seeing, are just like, well, let's just trade up to the number 1 spot. But for me, it's like, kind of goes back to what Scott Fitter said. If there's a guy out there and you're convicted by him, then go get him. So I don't want to just trade up all the way to the 1 spot, give up the future draft capital if you're not even 100% on who you want. Like, if they're like, all right, we like CJ Stroud, then you can go up and trade for him. But I don't want to just go trade up to the number 1 spot and then have us sitting there debating, like, down to the final minutes of our pick who our quarterback's going to be, because then that tells me that they weren't confident in, you know, the quarterback they want to select. So just give me your thoughts on that. And I think I'm coming in with some hot takes. I think we're going to win the NFC South next year. And yeah, I really do. Whether it's Derek Carr at QB, or like, if we sign Derek Carr and we don't draft a quarterback, then at least let Matt Corral get some second team reps in training camp. At least see what he has at this point. Like, I don't necessarily love Matt Corral like Cody does, but I don't hate him. Like, we drafted him. You might as well just show what he can do in some situations. I said this last year. It was bullshit. The Matt Rule was never going to let him be the quarterback because he had his eyes set on Baker. But if there was a legit quarterback competition, I bet he could have came in and done some things. He could have showed that he was a solid quarterback. So just give me your thoughts on that. And yeah, Anthony from Charlotte, thanks for all the work y'all do week in and week out. I'll see y'all Friday. Keep motherfucking pounding.
Appreciate you, Anthony.
Go ahead. You take his call, and then we'll talk about the Hogwarts mess.
If you're going to trade up, we better have a specific player in mind. You know, if it's with the idea of, oh, let's trade up just to make sure that we're in position to get one of the two. Like, that's why I wish that there was a quarterback prospect that was just easy to fall head over heels in love with. And again, I really like CJ Stroud. I like Bryce Young, but I'm not in love with them like a lot of people are. And I'm going to be real. I think it's because of our drought at the quarterback position that it makes it so much worse. Panther fans are like, please just give me a quarterback. And I understand it, man. I've been where you are. I know how you feel. You know, we need to be certain about who the quarterback is if we're going to trade up for one. And the number 2, I don't think Matt Corral is ever at this point going to get a legit competition.
I told you. That's why you've been hoping for it.
I mean, but it's not because of him, though. Like, if they gave him an opportunity.
That's because he got hurt last year. He would have needed.
Yeah, but like, I'm a firm believer. If you gave him the opportunity to play with the ones and show what he's capable of.
Not how the NFL works, though, bro.
I know, but look, Sam Howell might start for Washington next year.
If he would have not look, the only way that Matt Corral was ever going to potentially have a role in the Carolina Panthers' future was for everything to go terrible last year for the team and him not be hurt and come in and look good.
Yeah.
But sadly, he got hurt. So, like, that window closed. But I didn't know that there was a new Hogwarts game, which is
dude, it's all the rage.
Didn't know about that.
Everyone's
but
playing.
I did see. So, like, is that Harry Potter? Like, so you bring this up. This was poking around the internet. Did you see this mess today?
No,
the Harry Potter.
There's no music in it, is it?
No.
We'll get fucking damned. Okay, yeah.
Ready? Say it after me. Repeat after me. Okay. Nigga, please. Nigga, please.
What?
This broke the internet today.
Did he want her to say it too?
Look, the whole internet went crazy about this. This was the internet today.
Dude, R.I.P. to her.
I don't think so. I think the internet's going to destroy this, and I think that this is all meant to be part of something. Like, we need to see more context. Right, because that you can't just say like because you can't say this after me and on live stream it to a girl that's from England. Can we watch it one more time?
Dude, but do you know this dude?
Is
By
it
the way,
wrong to watch it? Actually, that's what I've been thinking about. Is today, as the internet went nuts about this, is it wrong to watch these things? Should we just not watch it?
do you know this
Turn
dude?
it off. Turn it off.
This dude is like he's like the most.
Do you know him?
Person. Yeah, dude, this
That guy.
guy
I
that
don't know
guy.
who any of these people is. Tell me
That
who these
guy,
are.
no. That dude on Twitch probably pulls in the most viewers out of anyone.
Who is he?
I don't know his name.
And why is he
dude,
with those people?
dude,
Why is
dude,
he with that? That looks like the real. That's not really Harry Potter. These are fake Harry Potter people.
Oh, what, dude? I mean, they're just wearing. Kai Sinat. Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, Kai Sinat. Dude, he's hilarious. Yeah, dude, all of his clips are always going viral, dude. I was not ready for that. I'm not gonna lie.
Crazy. You weren't ready. You didn't see that? I love this.
No, I had not seen that one time at all.
Oh man, that was going around today, just like and then you get caught up reading the comments about what people think, you know what I'm saying, and what the way it is. I just be careful, consume your day. Next call, last one right now.
Hey guys, it's the girl.
It's Quiet Joey,
aka Joey the Blind Panther again, and y'all were talking about something very interesting to me. Y'all were talking about entering into talks with the Bears for the number 1 pick, which I've never really been a fan of trading up for a quarterback, especially if you're going to have to give up that much. But because it's the Bears, it brought up something very interesting. I think we would do better to trade for Justin Fields. Because if you think about it from the Bears' perspective, if we call them up and we offer them decent compensation for Justin Fields, who I believe is still on his rookie contract, I'm not sure, and say maybe 2/3 and a fourth, all right, for Justin Fields, I think the Bears would take that because they have the number 1 pick. If you give them decent compensation for Justin Fields, they could go get their quarterback. Okay, it's not like Justin Fields is not very important to the Bears right now. And I mean, based off what Cody says about how good he is as a quarterback, he might have the potential to be more than just a bridge quarterback for us, which I really think that's interesting because, no, I would not be trading for the number 1 pick. I don't think that we should do that, especially for an Ohio State quarterback, but really for any college quarterback, because you know how I feel about that. But I would trade with the Bears for Justin Fields. Anyway, guys. Wow.
Dude, I'm not mad. If I got a notification tomorrow saying the Panthers traded for Justin Fields, dude, I don't view it in the same light that I would Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. I just wouldn't. I think he has much more talent than either of those two. So, yeah, even though it's a retread, it's not quite the retread that other retreads have been for the Panthers. So I hear you, Joey. I hear you, man. I would do it. I love Justin Fields' upside. Put some better talent around him. Put an offensive line in front of him. Yeah, man, why not? But who knows?
Only thing that's the last call for right now. So it's just kind of.
Do you even want to talk about this Matt Rule shit?
No, actually, just want to put this up. If you can just power through this. The Panthers, I think the latest news is that today, it's the 7th, right? Yeah. Panthers are parting ways with VP of Player Personnel Pat Stewart, per sources. This is according to Joe Person. Pat Stewart joined the Panthers during Matt Rule's tenure. The team worked together at Western Carolina and Temple. So VP of player personnel. I wonder how long his contract was like going through. Like, what's the timing of this? It's crazy actually to see there's still people that are linked and being purged deep into the bowels of the Matt Rule legacy. But the one thing that came up to me about this is that we didn't mention this last. I think you guys talked about it on the Friday free for all a lot. The arbitration suit. Matt Rule is now suing the Carolina Panthers. So it's just Matt Rule, Matt Fool. And that made me think this is something that I said last week in the show about Frank Reich's press conference. And one of the takeaways that I had was that Frank Reich, it just felt like it wasn't about him. His ego wasn't so big that it needed to be fed. There was a comfortability, comfortability, that's not a word, comfort level there, a security, a self-security that came with him that Matt Rule was the opposite of, in that ego part. And what's interesting is I saw a story, just because we're going into Super Bowl week, right, is about now everybody's going to be looking, at least the thing that I guess the archetype for where you want to be. There's two teams right now you want to be. You want to be the Chiefs or you want to be the Eagles this weekend. And so maybe you're looking towards those teams for some sort of wisdom, the blueprint, the archetype, the Pat Mahomes. And the story comes up on The Athletic that Nick Sirianni, one of the things the players, his ego is not a problem. And just going to bring this up as kind of a couple of points. You can read this. It's really an interesting article about Nick Sirianni and how our judgments about him and that awkward first press conference, right? We made fun of Nick Sirianni. I was part of it completely. We're going to have the best systems, where our systems are going to be so good that we won't even have to think. We'll just be playing better than everybody because our systems are perfect. And this story they've asked a lot of players about how they felt about him. This is Brandon Graham. He said, he won me over when he first got here. That first press conference he had, that he said all the wrong things when y'all got, and he said when y'all got on him. And that's, so he's talking about us, like all of us, like, it's like he didn't say, it just was weird. It just wasn't good. He said, I just felt like he came in here and gave us his honest answer about how he felt, and he was pissed about it. And I love that, because a lot of coaches wouldn't admit to sometimes when the media get under their skin, right? And so I think there was like a humility that comes there, maybe potentially from Sirianni, who was very brazen Italian kid. But then this is something he moved on, Cody, from head coach. Like last year he called plays. And it wasn't as good, and he passed it on. And this is what he said about it. He said, where a lot of problems happen in the NFL is from an ego standpoint. I felt like there needed to make a change in the sense of how it could free me up to be a better head coach. And I had a good assistant to call the plays. So that's what I went with. Matt Rule's ego was a problem. And these players who are talking so good about Sirianni, there's more of them. Just read, like, the whole story is all about that. It's like, man, like, we really just respect, like, what's going on here.
There has never been anyone connected to the Panthers organization now that I think I can't stand more than Matt Rule. For the longest time, it was Kelvin Benjamin above everyone.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Dude,
Who's that?
Oh, dude.
Exactly. That's a good point.
Kelvin Benjamin, first and foremost. You know what? A lot of us still feel some type of way about D'Angelo Williams, who's talked a bunch of shit.
Yeah, but
about
he was a really good player, though.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Matt Rule, as someone who never accomplished absolutely anything at all with the Carolina Panthers. Then his original press conference was all me. He tried to run this organization like a dictatorship. And now he has the unmitigated gall to sue the Panthers, saying that they owe him $5 million. Dude, fuck off, man. What are you even doing? They're even saying now that his contract with Nebraska, they backloaded it so that the Panthers would have to pay more up front. Dude, he's just a cancer on the ass of this organization. If I never hear his name another day in my life, it'll be too fucking soon, bro. I cannot stand this man.
Yeah, I think
He's
public enemy number
he's,
one.
He's everything I dislike in another man. Just spineless, can't answer for his own faults. Just an absolute moron. And I cannot stand him, dude.
Yeah, that's all. I just wanted to, but I just thought it was interesting as we continue to work. Like, yeah, when I see is this, as you guys, as we continue to debate all of these things, is really we are heading into the Super Bowl 57 this Sunday. Kansas City Chiefs face off against the Philadelphia Eagles. And, there's a lot of names we should probably watch, and particularly with the Eagles, some names that are going to come up that might be good additions to the Carolina Panthers. And there's that history and that connection with Frank Reich and all of that. So, watch that organization, right, for some cues. We probably need to look towards Jacksonville, too, because of those relationships between Reich and Peterson, and even the idea of them interviewing their offensive coordinator. Is that so? Those are the things that I was thinking of. I don't think that there's any other things to talk about when it comes to. That's about all I got, really, for the show.
Yeah, I mean,
Is there any other news we missed? Aaron Rodgers is going on a 4-day darkness retreat.
Did you want to know what I want to do even more than talk about Aaron Rodgers? I don't have the voice that makes them moist, but I can still give y'all subscriber shame, bitches. 129 people watching, 86 thumbs up. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell for every single time the C3 Panthers podcast goes live. We don't take any weeks off, man. We're here all year round, brand new Panther content. If you enjoy it, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. Boys, we're on the road to 5,000 subscribers.
So close.
Help us out, man. Help us out. Hit the subscribe button and tell a friend. Tell somebody you know and love that the coolest damn Panthers hangout on the entire interwebs, bro. That's us right here. C3 Panthers Podcast. Help us grow, man. Help us grow.
Going into this is what's awesome about the Super Bowl, Cody, is when we come back on Tuesday, it will be season 20, and not season 23. This will be our 11th season, but I'd like to mark them on the year 20, 22, 23, 24, right? This will be season 23, but our 11th season. Every week we've put out content for going back. We started about the second month of 2013, if even that, 4 weeks into the season. Haven't missed a week. I was calculating, even if we just did one episode a week for 10 years, that'd be 520 episodes. And we have done post-game shows now for 3 years, I think. We have done the Friday free-for-all for the last 2 years. This podcast is way over 600 episodes. That's insane.
And hey, 11's your lucky number, right? Mr. 1111.
Yes.
Going into your 11th season.
Yes.
Flex on these hoes,
Let's
baby.
go.
Let's go, man.
Let's go.
11's up. Put them 11s up. Hey, man. Look, I appreciate you, Tony. I love being on the show, being here with you, rapping every Tuesday, every Friday, and being able to hang out with y'all and these incredible Panther fans,
fun.
man. Y'all make my Tuesday every Tuesday night.
And speaking of the longest running Panthers podcast, it's the longest running segment on the C3 Panthers podcast. And that is our homage to Steve Smith, where we tell someone to ice up, toughen up, to get it together. Everyone is fair game. Anyone is fair game. This is the one time this show, actually not the one time, we do whatever the hell we want on this show, but this is the time of the show we dedicate for us to go into the football world or outside the football world and tell somebody to ice up, toughen up, to get it together. Cody, I don't know. You got a great one. I have what, like, I actually feel bad now after showing that video.
No, I have two to make up for one day now. But first,
Ice up, son. Ice up.
Ice up. Let's get somebody. Let's tell someone to ice up, toughen up, to get it together. You go one, then I'll go one, then you give your second.
All right, that sounds fair. So mine, I'm icing up people first who don't watch what they say, and people who don't watch where they're looking. First one, you have to learn how to mind what you say, especially if there are young, impressionable ears around.
Mom, yeah, Bobby. Do we have a cat? No, why would you say we have a cat? Because Dad last night was saying, "Oh, I'm gonna beat that kitty, baby." Why would
you listen to what happened? Nobody was in.
You need to be in bed, all right?
Go.
Go inside.
Go to bed.
Jeez.
That's your fault. But you know he's in the room next door. Like, doesn't matter.
I love it, dude.
Shit's man, I don't trust anything on the internet anymore.
How about this? I don't even give a fuck. That is hilarious. Dude.
Actually, let's watch it one more time. I think this. Here. You want to know how we can find out if this video is fake?
Yeah.
Let's watch it one more time, and you pay attention to when he spits his beer out. If he spits his beer out in a natural way of hearing what the kid said, which I felt like he did, it might actually be real. Let's watch it one more time.
Yeah, Bobby. Do we have a cat?
No, why would you say we have a cat?
Because Dad last night was saying, "Oh, I'm gonna beat that kitty, baby." Why would
Oh no, it's fake. It's fake.
I don't know, dude.
Look, why was he holding his beer up to his face so long? One more time. Look at it. Look, is that he goes to take a sip. Look, why is he holding it like that?
"Oh, I'm gonna beat that kitty."
Waiting. Yeah, he was waiting.
Dude, I don't know. Dude, I don't even care. In my mind, it's real, and it's fucking hilarious. And you should watch what you say, man. Kids pick up stuff, dude. So, to these parents, no, I suck.
I know, man, even if they use their kid to get TikTok views. Here's my ice up pick. And I feel bad because we were talking about that the other video on this one, but this one, saw this flash across my news feed. Aramark apologizes for unintentional insensitivity after students serving students chicken and watermelon on the first day of Black History.
How do people still do this shit, dude?
This is what it said is they were asking people if they want watermelon, and I remember being confused because it's not even in season. She said, but
were
anyway,
were they doing it on purpose?
No. Well, look, who knows actually how you think this. The offering of chicken and waffles as an entree with watermelon as a dessert was inexcusably insensitive, Johnson told the outlet. Here, look, what does the Aramark say back? It says this. All right, this is what they said. We apologize for the unintentional insensitivity shown on February 1st, the first day of Black History Month, While our menu was not intended as a cultural meal, we acknowledge that the timing was inappropriate and our team should have been more thoughtful in its surface. That's actually like that's the exact thing you have to say in there, because either it was intentional or you are not paying attention and totally incompetent. But
I agree with VZV. Chicken and waffles is one thing. Chicken and waffles and watermelon. That's
it's like,
fucking
how can we
wild,
make
bro.
this meal heart healthy? Well, put some fruit. Oh gosh, I know that was my ice up pick. That was my ice up pick. I was like, come on, like you said, is no one caught that?
Yeah, dude. I don't.
No
even
one
know
caught that. They're like, you know what?
so dumb.
What are we gonna make tomorrow? You know what? Let's do chicken waffles. Anybody else got it? Like,
and watermelon to top it off. That's fucking crazy. So, okay, the first one was watch what you say. This one is even more simple. Watch where you're going, bro.
I've been having a lot of sexual escapades, as I let you know, like having little adventures with some freaky Chicago girls. And I've come to the realization, I've been talking to one, that I don't think pegging is necessarily that gay.
He just falls off the stage, dude.
I've been having a lot of
Dude, and the guy trying to
the
help him out.
joke. The joke itself, think about this, is your joke is starting with the lead. I don't think pegging is gay. And then he just fucking eats it. Then he eats a D.
It's necessarily that gay.
Oh, dude. And then the guys are trying to help him up.
It looks
dude,
like he's
I've been having a lot of
wrestling
sexual
him.
escapades, as I let you know, like having little adventures with some freaky Chicago girls. And I've come to the realization, I've been
How
talking
do you
to
not
one,
know
that
where the
I
end
don't
of the
think
stage
pegging is
is?
necessarily that gay.
Dude.
Stupid ass.
Dude,
That
I love
sucks.
that.
Watch your step, bro.
Yeah, but if you're a stand-up comic, watch where you're going, dude. That's
ate
all
dirt.
I can say, man. He definitely did eat dirt, man.
God's
But that's it,
timing.
man. That's my ice up.
All right, wonderful. That's the C3 Panthers podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. We'd love for you to be a part of the show next week. Also, Friday, coming up, Friday Free for All. It has been lit, Cody. The cult is growing, and as that cult grows, they are becoming members of the C3 Super Fan Club. They're subscribing on YouTube, and on Friday, you guys really get it done, bro.
Tony, every Friday at 7 p.m., I am building an elite squadron of Panther operatives to help us take over the podcasting world, baby. They're my myrmidon, my own personal army, and we're building them more and more every single Friday, 7 p.m. You be a part of the show. Join via StreamYard. Dude, I swear, every single show we have 10 people on, and the discussions get better and better and better. So join us every Friday at 7 p.m., man, and be a part of the show for Panther fans by Panther fans. And Tony, right at the end
We
of the
got to
show,
do this one. Yeah, we got to do it.
fine donation from Quell Davis says, wait, what's y'all's favorite Steve Smith moment? Dude,
All right,
that
I
ice
don't
up
think we can
moment's
say
pretty
the ice. I mean,
fucking
I guess you could say that, but it's an easy go-to when we just did the ice up picks.
yeah.
I'll tell you this is there's a couple of it's like, do you want the mean Steve Smith moment? My favorite moment is Steve Smith against the Bears in 05 or 6. Like, it wasn't the year we went to the Super Bowl. We went to the Super Bowl, and it would have been about 05. We went and we lost to the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC Championship, but we beat the Bears going to what's that, a divisional round? And Steve Smith had something like 2 receiving touchdowns and a punt return and a kick. Like, he had like 5 touchdowns, it felt like, in this game, and he was returning punts for us. He was, I mean, this dude was just straight nasty, bro. All over the place. That game, he single-handedly torched the fucking Bears. I'm going to look up those stats real quick as you tell us your Steve Smith moment.
Dude, I have the first touchdown pass from Cam Newton to Steve Smith against the Cardinals burned into my retina. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget Steve Smith damn near starting a fight with Roman Harper in the end zone. That was a great moment that I always remember. I always love. And dude, sadly enough, his return to Carolina when he was with the Ravens went off for like 2 touchdowns, I think 200 plus yards or something like that. Told everybody to take care of his lawn while he was absent, you know.
All right.
That was a pretty legendary moment too, although it wasn't with our Panthers. But shout out to Steve, man. Just an absolute warrior, dude. So many memories, man.
Yeah, here's the full box score. Is Steve Smith in this game had 12 catches for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's pretty badass. I swear he did something on special teams. Yeah, punt returns. Okay, no, maybe I'm just misremembering. I thought he had more than that, but that game he fucking decimated him. That game right there sticks out to me. 12 catches, 218 yards. A badass. Badass motherfucker.
Best
Interesting
Panther receiver
here.
ever.
Mohsin Muhammad was on that Chicago team.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. Look, we'll be here forever until we're not. Cody.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
C3 Panther Nation. Until next time, keep pounding.